be with Dr. Bartholomew Orr, pastor, author, husband, family man, and thought leader as he encounters other believers who have impacted the world with their God-given gifts and talents. Let's meet the people who are moving the church forward with their faith, wisdom, direction, and innovation. It's spiritual, it's motivational, it's Church Forward.
Hey, welcome to another Church Forward conversation chronicling the stories and lifestyle of some of the world's most innovative people who will share how their faith, wisdom, and direction really help them to change lives and make a difference in these unprecedented times. And I'm so thankful today to be joined with Shawn Boyd. How you doing, sir?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Look, appreciate you coming and being a part. And so this is a great opportunity, not only for the audience, but even for myself, man, just to hear your story and to get to know you and everything that is going on.
Thank you.
So give me the 30-second elevator pitch for Shawn Boyd. Who are you?
Yeah, so the 30-second pitch, Shawn Boyd, an educator, I'm a father, I'm a husband. The list goes on and on. So born here in Memphis, Tennessee. I've been working in post-secondary now for 16 years. So just out here trying to get students to college and just, making a better life for themselves. So,
all right. So born in Memphis.
Yeah, born in Memphis.
Youngest or oldest?
Yeah, so I'm actually the only child. I'm the only child. Yes.
Are you spoiled?
I wouldn't say so. But yeah, only child.
So how was home life? Tell me about growing up.
So I did grow up in a single parent home, born and raised Memphis, Tennessee. Came through the Memphis city school systems at the time. Now, of course, Memphis Shelby County schools.
Right.
Graduate. I think everybody in Memphis has to say their high schools. I heard right. And so graduated from Overton High School in '99. And a lot of people don't know, first generation college student. And so, just being able to get to college was a challenge at one time. But, hey, I'm here and ready to go.
Oh, my goodness. 99, Overton.
Yeah.
And who was the science teacher over there when you came out?
Good question. I'm trying to think. I want to say Mr. Branch. Do you remember?
Okay, Clarence. Was Clarence still teaching?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Because he was a member here.
Okay.
As well.
Good.
And then Gloria Williams was also, I believe, at Overton.
Yeah.
And so, all righty.
Some great teachers.
Well, if you had only 3 words to describe yourself, what would they be?
I would say just a person who, 3 words, right? It's hard to do. So 3 words, I would say innovator, educator, and just change agent. That may be 4.
Okay.
Yeah, we get that.
Right. Now, innovator, educator, change agent.
Yes.
Growing up in a single parent home, Memphis, Tennessee, you went to Overton. How, where does that innovation come from? Was it your mom? Was it your church? Or?
Yeah. So again, as I stated earlier, raised by a single parent. But one thing about my mom always kept me in church. So I grew up in a Baptist church, Reverend O.C. Collins Jr., Bethlehem, in North Memphis. And so the church was my community. And so everything I pretty much did as far as youth choir, president of junior usher board, just the basketball, the list just goes on and on. So I think it kind of started my foundation of taking risks, right? Trying different things. And I think it helped me to shape who I am today, just being that community of church. Yeah.
That's great. Yeah. That's great. And your mom, with you being a first generation person to go off to college, was it a struggle just to get into school and to stay in?
Yeah, huge struggle. And I know we talked about teachers earlier, but when I think back to my high school career, I had a teacher by the name of Miss Hardaway Martin, my Algebra 2 teacher. And she was one of those who would basically volunteer me or told me what to do as far as hey, I want you to check out these different colleges. Back in the day, you actually went to college fairs and completed applications with a pen. And so she would say, hey, come down, check them out, see what kind of scholarships. And so she was one who played a huge part of helping me to really get to the college setting. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. What did you major in college?
So my undergrad was in communications, attended Middle Tennessee State University. And I just got my doctorate 2 years ago at Trevecca in Nashville in leadership.
Okay.
Yes.
So what did you want to do with that?
Yeah,
early
so
on?
like most teens, I had this big dream of, maybe going to New York, LA, being in front of the camera. Mass communications was my major. But I found out early, you can set plans for yourself, but God may have other plans. And so I'm a big component. I'm able to still use my degree, of course. But I noticed opportunities were opening up around the field of education. And I never even thought about education, but it's like doors were just opening. And so that's how I started off. I started subbing, a substitute teacher at Overton.
Really?
I went back to Overton, started subbing, and then from there, worked at Lamorne College, HBCU in Memphis.
Okay.
And the rest is history. Yeah.
Wow. So you went pretty much from just the high school to the post, even though that wasn't originally.
That was not the plan. That was not the plan at all. Pretty much every job that I applied for in communications, I was not getting interviews. I was not getting callbacks. But in anything in education, plenty of interviews. And so I knew then, I was like, God has a plan for me in this particular field. And I just kind of walked into it.
So you mentioned God has a plan. So tell me about that faith journey. I mean, and the role that God have played.
Yeah. So again, God has played a huge role and continues to play a huge role in my life. But as I stated, coming from a first generation college student that did not have a clue about college, right? My mom wanted me to get there, but she did not have the resources to say, hey, I'm gonna help you to get there. And so I think even from high school, with placing those teachers in my life that got me to MTSU. But more importantly, when I got there, I struggled. I was one that wanted to come home every other week. I'm calling home to mom, can I come back? And she was like, no, you're going to stay there. We're going to finish it out. But even on the college campus, I had resources there. So the director of minority affairs, some days I was like, hey, I'm hungry. I was one of those poor college students. I don't think they make them like that anymore. I see them.
No, they still make them. It's still a whole lot of poor college students.
Right. Yeah. So I was one of those poor college students. But I had people in place to really help me to finish, right? So not only get to college, but I was able to graduate. Fell in love with education. And so I got to Lamorne, as I mentioned, minority recruiter. I fell in love with it. Went to work at the University of Memphis for 7 years, got my master's in higher education. And now, again, I do policy work in the state of Tennessee. So really helping all colleges to look at basically students of color. When we look at the data, it states that students of color are 20 points below their white counterpart as far as going to college, but more importantly, finishing college.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it seemed like so many factors play a role into that. Even from just not having the exposure that other people have. I think we don't take it full advantage of trips, of giving these giving our high schoolers the opportunities to think outside the box and to look at what's available, what's out there. Those are some of the things that we probably need to do a whole lot better job doing to kind of close that gap.
Right, exactly. I agree. I think, you have to see it in order to believe it. And so I agree with you, college visits, tours, and I think just, individuals sharing their journey. So I'm always saying, well, hey, if I did it, it's a first generation college student, believe me, you can too.
Well, you mentioned that growing up, especially in church and how they motivated you and kept pushing you, and then from school as well. In today's society, what is the faith community's role in really the college experience? Yeah,
so I still think the same thing. I feel like church is community, right? And so as we know, and one thing, of course, I'm in front of you, but one great thing I love about being a member here at Brown is that community factor, right? So it's not just, hey, we come to church, we worship, and we go home. It's how can we really help the person from the inside of church to the outside of church? And so, again, I feel like that's how I start, with being in church, trying to being a junior usher, trying to somewhat sing in the choir. Probably couldn't sing, but some way trying to, sing in the choir. And so I think the church has a role in really helping our students or individuals to meet those needs. When we talk about post-secondary, we talk about financial literacy, and the list goes on and on. I think it plays a huge role.
And this is not on my notes here, but tell me about your journey here to Brown.
Yes. So I went to, of course, grew up my whole life, Bethlehem Baptist Church. Family kind of went there. I went off to MTSU, and one thing I noticed, I got a chance to like try different churches. But I even noticed, even in college, like I felt kind of weird missing church, So I did find a watch care service with Bishop Joseph Walker, Mount Zion, Nashville, who to this day I still talk to, believe it or not, and he promoted the book as well. So again, having that kind of accountability community, it really helped me to get through. Bishop Walker was one of those who picked up college students from 6 colleges in Nashville on a Sunday. He fed us dinner. And so even during the week, he did Bible study on our campus. And so I always had that factor of saying, hey, if I'm ever lost, I need prayer, or whatever the case may be, he was available.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so after college, what ended up happening after college?
So what got me here to Brown was the question, right? And so when I got back, again, being a member of Mount Zion in Nashville, I got back here and, of course, moved to South Haven with my family. And one thing I loved about Brown was just the kind of more the family environment. And again, as I mentioned earlier, having that community. So really, being able to go to church worship, but it's so many things you can get involved in here. And I wanted the same thing to happen for me when I was younger for my kids. So my son is, here on the junior usher board. Okay. My daughter's in the choir, dance. So the same type of thing that it did for me, I know it would do for them.
That's fantastic. But that is so, I think Bishop Walker really, my goodness, their college ministry is still one that is a model for churches that, regardless of the size of church,
so true.
This is something that all of us can do to really begin to surround ourselves and surround the college student with the support that they need.
So true.
How do we? Hey, even if it was just if every church adopted 1 or 2 college students to say you're away from home, but we want to be your church away from home.
True.
We want to provide that support. I think it's a win-win situation.
And, even thinking, back to what you just said, I never thought that I would still be connected this many years after college. So every time I'm back in Nashville, trust me, I'm at Mount Zion still to this day.
Well, great.
Yes. Or when he comes here.
That's right. I'm glad that we were bringing him here as well. So, well, wisdom. When it comes to wisdom, what wisdom do you have for young Black men who want to be successful in their lives?
Yeah, so I guess one of the biggest pieces of wisdom that I received growing up is just consistency. I think I had an interview a few weeks ago and somebody asked me my definition of success, right? And so I told them a simple word: consistency. And so there's going to be many days, right, that you have the good days, you're going to have the bad days, you're going to have days you're just wondering, you're all over the place. But I think if we just keep getting up, right, and recognize, giving ourselves grace, right, to say, hey, today was not the best of days, but guess what? There's tomorrow, right? I can get back up. I could try it again. And so really to my young Black brothers, right, and even in my work now, my why is my students. And I really focus in on Black males and students of color because I know what a college degree did for me personally, right? It's not a guaranteed pathway to a job, I like to tell students. So I never like for a student to go to college saying, hey, I'm going to go to this college, I'm going to walk out making 6 figures. No, but it does provide you with options. It provides you with experiences. And I think that's the key to life. Like you want to be able to say, hey, I got options and I'm able to kind of decide what I want to do after, I leave college, whatever the case may be.
So we mentioned that African-American students are already 20 points behind their counterparts. So what do you say to young people to help them complete their degree? Yeah,
so again, going back, to your why, I think that's very important. And, to be honest, looking back at most students, at 18, it's hard to say, hey, I want to do this for the rest of my life. So I think college it's okay to say, hey, I want to try different things. College is not the traditional 4-year scenario that we used to tell our students. Now you have community colleges, you have technical colleges, you have certifications that you can get in 6 months. So I think being able to educate our youth on the different options, and some may say, well, hey, I want to go get a certificate, 6 months, go to the workforce. Now you have stackable credentials. You can go work for a year. Guess what? On ramp, come back and finish. And so just having that knowledge is key.
Intern programs, co-ops. Oh my goodness.
So true.
These were things that back in the day,
Right.
they really drilled into us that helped us once we finished
So
to
true.
actually have, like you said, both the education and the experience to take you so much farther.
So true. So
Yeah,
true. Yes.
yeah. So
yes.
I think that's one thing I love about the BYI program here,
Yeah.
and how can we even expand that so that even these college students can know that, you know what, look, these are some great intern opportunities
Right.
for
Exactly.
you as well.
Exactly. Yes.
All right. So tell me about a time that you got it wrong, and how did you recover? Again, how wisdom played a part in that.
I think a time that I got it wrong was, that's a very good question. I think just being, saying, hey, I want to go this particular. So I kept trying the job I mentioned earlier. To be honest, I did not want to come back to Memphis. I left, I went away. I didn't go far, of course, Murfreesboro, 3 hours. But I was one of those students who, hey, I want to come back to Memphis. I want to go somewhere else. But again, listening to God and knowing again that God has different plans in place. And so, again, I've been able to do some amazing things that I would have never thought of here in Memphis. And so really just listening to God and trying to take myself out of it. So I think that's probably one of the biggest things that I tried to fight God at one point. Like, hey, no, I don't want to come back to Memphis. You maybe got me switched with another student. However, I knew, hey, coming back here, I've been able to do some amazing things and really amazing things with students.
Well, as it relates to direction then, what do you see as 5, 10 year, 15? What's next for Shawn?
Man. What's next? I'm always trying to think about what's next. But a lesson I have learned, I'm trying to also enjoy the process, right? I used to be one of those people that I celebrate something real quickly and I'm on to the next, but I try to really take in those moments. And so, of course, I'm doing, I just released a book, How to Play the Game of College, it took off, it blew my mind.
Tell me about it. Tell me.
Yeah, so, pretty much how we talked about earlier, I wanted to create a resource for students that was pretty much like me, had no clue how to get to college. I worked in post-secondary and I was seeing the same students over and over again, right? So you got little Johnny at the University of Memphis, excited to be there, but you look up in the spring, guess what? Little Johnny is no longer there, right? And so I'm like, hey, I want to create some type of resource for parents and students and community, right? That they can pick up this book and feel better prepared, better equipped, have resources available to really finish this thing out. And so, yes, to answer your question, hopefully the book is for workshops that I'm doing. I just have an online class that just came out that goes along with the book. And so hopefully just some things around that. I'm super excited about it.
And the title is?
How to Play the Game of College.
How to Play the Game
I'm breaking the code.
College.
I'm breaking the code, yes. We want you to win.
That's
we want
right.
you to win, yes.
Hey. And look, these young people, all the games that they play and finding all of the codes and the midst of these games.
And again, Pastor Orr, I want to thank you. I know Brown bought a copy for each senior here a few months ago. So again, I want to thank you for that.
Look, what better way, because as they're transitioning from high school to college,
Right.
we need to make sure that, one, they have the right biblical worldview and that they can lay the foundation, because it is troubled waters out there.
So true.
And if you don't have the cheat codes to the system,
Right.
it's so easy to fall off
So true.
by the wayside.
So true.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we appreciate that.
Yes.
Well, innovation. What led you to write that book?
Wow, innovation. So I'm one that, I'm human. So as I get older and older, I've been one that always recognized I was a little different, right? And so, being able to, even in my job, right, in policy work, to be honest, there's not too many black males that do policy work around education in the state. And so everything I've been able to do, sometimes it feels lonely, right? You're doing things. But I think it's always when you're walking in your purpose and your passion, God just kind of like gives you things. So I really didn't see a book. If you asked me this question last year, I wouldn't been able to say I'm writing a book. But I feel like if you walking in your purpose and your passion, things just kind of come to you, right? So if you're in your lane and you figure that out, and I tell young people that all the time, when you get in that walk, that pathway, God just kind of puts things and innovation on you. And so I feel like that's what happened with me. Yeah.
That's great. Now, I know there's been a whole lot of talk, especially with the Supreme Court decision regarding affirmative action. How do you see those changes affecting college admissions?
Yeah, so when we talk about, the affirmative action, it's going to be a huge effect. I think it's going to start off smaller. If we look at the state of Tennessee, pretty much some of our more private institutions, so we look at a Rhodes, a Vanderbilt, or even a UTK, Knoxville, that uses, admissions or ratings to get students in, right? And so I always tell parents and students just to stay abreast of what's going on with that. Also, it's a pitch also to promote our HBCUs, right? Lemoyne, and I know you all do some great work here with Brown, with Lemoyne, but we have HBCUs that serve all students, right? And really meet HBCUs, when we think of innovation, they've been doing it since the beginning of time. So a lot of times colleges saying, hey, we got these new services and wraparound services support our students. HBCUs
have been doing it for the
yeah. So again, look at those options, but definitely put the HBCU on on your list of options. I think it's
so. Hey, if someone were to ask you why HBCUs,
man. So and we talked about regrets, right? That's probably one of the only things I wish I would have done, right? Okay. But in my role in being in higher education, my first job was at Lemoyne, at HBCU. And so I think about the history behind it and what it meant for our students, number one, but what they do for all students, I think is just unmatched, right? So when we talk about completion rates and students graduating, HBCUs produce the highest graduates, even if we look at some of our private institutions, because of their innovation. So yeah.
And and I didn't do an HBCU as well. And one of the things that, and I appreciate you putting a plug in, because I think oftentimes people think HBCU and we think, okay, is it going to be a less education? Is it going to be a less of an experience?
Right.
And yet what I'm discovering, the partnerships that they are developing,
so true,
as well as the programs that they are offering, is really giving our young people the foot that they need to get through some doors and to really make it big.
Right. And I know you all do the HBCU Fair here at Brown as well.
We've done it for,
which is huge. I actually brought my son. He's about to be a 9th grader, and he was just so amazed and being able to talk to so many colleges and so many HBCUs in one place. So that's huge. Wow. That's huge. Yes.
All right. So if you could have dinner with any person, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
Man. It's a great question. I would say actually, so the high school teacher that I mentioned earlier, Miss Hardaway, right? So she's one of those teachers that stayed on me and called my mom when I wasn't doing something in class. I don't know if teachers still do that anymore, but she was one of those teachers. Yeah. But she was one, again, who got me to college, but we stayed connected, throughout the time. And so we have lunch now and dinner, and she's one that still to this day, holds me accountable.
Oh, wow.
One I can go to. Yeah. So one I can go to and, talk about things without judgment. And so, again, the wisdom, right, that comes from her has been huge, very huge in my life. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, believe me, I can only, speaking for myself, I know she is proud of you and the great work that you're doing, especially the fact that you're giving back in such a tangible, practical way, and especially with the book.
Thank you.
Now, where can they get the book and information on it?
Yeah. So again, How to Play the Game of College is available on my website, www.drdrshawnboyd.com, or on Amazon.
Okay.
Yes.
www.
Doctor, and it's DRSHAWN Boyd BOYD.com. So www.drshawnboyd.com.
All righty. How to Play the Game of College.
Yes, I'm breaking the code.
All right.
You're going to win if you read this book.
Hey, well, you heard it here. And look, please be sure to subscribe to my e-newsletter so that you don't miss out on even more ways to live your life outside the box. Stay tuned for even more conversation that will inspire you to do the unthinkable. And if you have a college student, if you know of a college student, if you know of a parent of a college student, why don't you pick up this book, invest into them so that their young person, that child can win at the game of college. I didn't ask this, but what about adults going back to school as well?
Yeah.
Would it help them?
Yeah, so this book is, of course, geared more towards your high schooler, but it's any adult that picks it up, it's the same resources in that book. So, yeah, I invite, parents, anybody who's looking into post-secondary, trust me, this book is what you need. Yes.
All right. How to play the game of college. And thank you so very much, Shawn.
Thank you.
Thank you for being a part. See you next